He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
We are now simulcasting the last 2 hours at prisonplanet.tv for radio listeners that want the added dimension of seeing the documents, the articles, the video clips visually that we play here. Prisonplanet.tv. Webster Tarpley coming up in 52 minutes with a host of key issues, including his prediction. He believes they're getting ready to launch some type of false flag internet terror attack as a pretext to pass the cybersecurity takeover bill. It's now been declassified. U.S. plans to fight the net revealed, including in the U.S., attacking anyone that criticizes the internet, anybody that exposes government corruption. I mean, we already knew this, but now it's out in the open. BBC, Politico, Infowars.com wrote an article about it, The Register. So that's all coming up. It's just part of what Tarpley, one of our resident experts, economist, doctor of history, will be discussing with us. Also, don't forget, we're selling out of this quick. The first printing already sold out, but we bought a bunch knowing that would happen. The second printing, as of 2 days ago, it already sold 70+% of what they had. So we're getting an order in for the third printing that'll be done in about 3 weeks. We should be out by then. Nowhere can you get a deal on Jesse Ventura with Dick Russell, American Conspiracies book. Hard-hitting, new, already a bestseller 1 week in. It's in the top 10 of all the charts, went as high as number 2 on Amazon. American Conspiracy, $19.95. It's $24.95 in bookstores. But we also add, it's like a Ginsu knife ad, but it's true. You know, buy one set of Ginsu knives, get another free. You get 2 different films. You can choose from 2 different films, Loose Change Final Cut, an excellent 9/11 film, or Reflections and Warnings, my interview with Aaron Russo documentary. Get one of those films free with the book, and the book's discounted by $5. That's a $44.95 value for $19.95. That is more than 50% off. In fact, how do you divide that? I know it's more than 50. What is that, 60% off or 55% off? If it's $44.95, and we're selling it for $19.95, that value, then, yeah, we're talking about over 50% off on the book at Infowars.com. And your purchase of the books and videos is how we fund the websites, the films. Plus, you can read the book, give it to somebody. You may know all about 9/11 or Aaron Russo and the Federal Reserve. Give them the film. Infowars.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Okay. Kevin Booth, 4 or 5 years in the making, great filmmaker. He made the documentary American Drug War, and it aired on Showtime, one of their most popular shows of the year, they reported, got high ratings. And he really made part 2 of American Drug War. It's called How Weed Won the West. 14 states passed laws saying this is decriminalized. The feds don't care. Obama says he's going to go ahead and legalize, but then he comes in and orders 90+% of the dispensaries in major cities in California shut down. So that's how they operate. They lie to you and then stab you in the back. But here's the issue. I've smoked pot in high school and college. I don't really like it. But I know that it impairs you a lot less than alcohol and doesn't eat your liver. I know it has hundreds of documented glaucoma, cancer, eating disorders. Studies show that Prozac isn't as good for depression as placebo, but marijuana is much better than placebo. And I'm not saying smoke it. I know a lot of lazy people who are probably already lazy, not even lazier, smoking pot. The reason we're talking about this is the fake drug war is the way the system takes control of our society. It's the foundation of the snitches, the spies, the federalized police, the warrantless searches, the checkpoints. When you make alcohol illegal in the 20s, tripled the amount of alcohol poisoning and alcoholism. It empowered the mafia, corrupted the police. No one debates this. This is admitted fact. Some European countries have decriminalized drugs. Drug use drops on average by more than half. The crime goes down. Because now you just go to a government facility or a clinic and they treat you like a sick person. You get your heroin or whatever, and or they get you on methadone or whatever, and now you're not robbing people's stereos or mugging them to get your heroin. So across the board, I say decriminalize. Again, 80+ years ago when you could buy cocaine, Coca-Cola, opium, laudanum, heroin, you had much fewer people. And this is admitted mainline history using illegal drugs. You make it illegal. Hollywood makes it glamorous. People get involved in it. They use it. It empowers the drug gangs. Mexico is collapsing because of drug prohibition. No one's debating that. 19,000 people killed the last 3 years. That's the State Department's own numbers. U.S. Embassy staff, 4 people killed 2 days ago. They're killing cops in the U.S. None of the drug rings that are government-run and some that aren't government-run, they all want to keep it illegal. So it's a no-brainer. Decriminalize. That doesn't mean you sell it at 7-Eleven. I remember in high school, I didn't even really like pot, but it was easier to get than beer. Beer was what I liked. And because there was such controls over alcohol. It's the same thing. You treat marijuana like alcohol, there's going to be less of it, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm done ranting about that. The point is, people need to get how weed won the West. You can get it in a combo deal with American Drug War, discounted at Infowars.com. But I wanted to go to Kevin Booth. And look, I know we've got Thinker, Bill, Curtis, Matt, Robert, and others. I'll give you each about a minute because I know you're probably not on subject when we go to you. But then after that, only calls about the fake drug war, or do you agree with us? Do you disagree? 1-800-259-9231. And I want to talk about a host of issues here today with Kevin Booth. Kevin, good to have you on with us.
Thanks again, Alex. Thanks so much for having me on. And I'd just like to back that up. It's funny, when I think back to my days back in high school, I didn't like marijuana at all, but I smoked it anyways, just because you almost had to if you wanted to be considered cool or to be accepted into any of like the cool in groups of kids.
Let's say you're over, you're 17, you're at the cheerleader's house, and she pulls out some marijuana. She's not going to think you're cool unless you smoke it with her.
No, you absolutely have to. Now, I'm sure if you go to Amsterdam right now, there's no way that kind of behavior is taking place. I mean, the point is that kids and people are always going to do exactly what you tell them not to do. And in a way, the government knows that also. So, I mean, they're playing this thing on so many different levels. But just to back up to something else you're talking about, I truly believe that there's no way in the world they could have pulled off this New World Order agenda without the drug war. I mean, they had to dumb everybody down. They had to make this more about than just going to wars with other countries and economics. They had to actually start fiddling with society's brain chemistry, and that's what they've done. I mean, the government is basically controlling, a huge percentage of our brain chemistry.
Well, I've had countless medical doctors and toxicologists and neurologists on. Ritalin, Prozac, all those different classes of drugs. The molecules are incredibly deadly. They're toxic. I mean, the heart swelling, brain shrinking, brain damage, suicide. And then meanwhile, marijuana has a lot more attributes than some of the negatives that I've seen. And the point is, it's an excuse to put I remember back in the 60s and 70s reading stories from then. I wasn't around in the 60s, but reading about it, where people get 50 years in prison for an ounce of marijuana.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the first guy went to jail for almost life for a joint or something like that. I forget his name, but he was like the first marijuana prisoner ever. You could look it up.
Well, look, they know humans for tens of thousands of years have been taking drugs, taking mushrooms, fermenting grapes. People like to mess with their brain. We're a very addictive species, and they know that. And how do they make people slaves? Governments have always wanted slavery, but they can't just say we have slavery now without giving it an excuse. So they put out all these chemicals. The CIA introduced LSD. The CIA introduced cocaine into the illegal market. That's been admitted. Knowing people will get it, they will get addicted, and now they've got an excuse to put you in a slave camp.
Well, I think it's an interesting point, too, that you make in the film where you're talking about the thing that they can't stand about marijuana. Even with cocaine and heroin, the government and the CIA can control those things because they're very centralized. Cocaine can only be grown in only a handful of places on the entire planet, mostly in South America, Peru, Colombia, etc. It has to be an exact type of condition. Poppies will grow everywhere, but the kind of poppies that I understand will grow actual heroin will only grow in very specific places. Marijuana grows everywhere. It grows in almost every country. It grows everywhere, and that's why they can't stand it. And that's why it's still Schedule 1 when things like heroin and cocaine are Schedule 2. I mean, the government actually is telling us that heroin and cocaine are safer than marijuana.
Well, let's expand on that. I saw the statistic in the Statesman 2 days ago. 100 million Americans are admitted marijuana smokers. Now, if you look at the statistics of who's tried it, they report it's over 200 million. So 2/3 of people, every cop listening out there is younger than 50. I'll bet you $1 million that they have smoked marijuana. You know, my grandfather, when he was dying of cancer and real nauseated with chemo, his buddy, the sheriff, showed up and said, "Jerry, smoke some of this. I hear it makes you be able to eat food." And he said, "No, I just want to die." You know, it was about a month before he died. No, this is too painful. I'm not going to smoke that devil weed, basically. But, you know, the issue here is that the cops knew this stuff 20, 30 years ago. They know what's going on. And if you've got 86% of illegal drug users only use marijuana, where's the drug war going to go if they don't have that 86% to put in prison?